Good morning, everybody, from Nitro HQ in San Francisco. My name is Lauren Suggett. I'm Content Marketing Manager here at Nitro. And on behalf of our organization, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, How Your Document Habits Are Destroying Productivity. We sincerely appreciate you all taking the time to join the session today. There is a ton of great information to share. So just a small bit of business before we begin. We will be holding Q&A at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to submit your questions as they arise via the questions panel on your screen, and we will address them at the close of the presentation. Additionally, we'll be making both a recording of the webinar and the presentation slides available to you all. So be sure to keep an eye on your inboxes over the next day or two for those. And that is all I've got for you folks. So now please allow me to introduce my esteemed colleague and your fabulous host of today's session, Mr. Sam Thorpe, Director of Product for Nitro. Sam, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I really appreciate the introduction. Again, my name is Sam Thorpe. I'm Director of Product at Nitro. And it's my pleasure today to share with you a presentation that we call How Your Document Habits Are Destroying Productivity. This is an interesting topic for a couple of reasons. One, documents are still a huge part of how we do business. Whether you're an individual proprietor who owns a power washing company, or whether you're an IT manager that runs a 1,000-employee organization, contracts, quotes, invoices are still a key. It's still how business is getting done. And business is competitive, and productivity matters. And productivity stops being an empty concept when you think about how it drives a number of emerging business themes forward, like, for example, speed, the speed of doing business, and customer experience. How can we deliver an exceptional experience to our customers? And it's interesting to think that the way in which you work with documents actually contributes to how competitive your business is. So these are a couple of themes that we'll discuss as we move through the presentation today. But without further ado, let's jump in. This is what we're looking to cover. We're going to touch on a few insights that, of document habits that may be hurting your productivity, as well share some of the insights and impact of a Nitro and PDF Association survey that we recently did called the State of Document Productivity in the Workplace. And that really is the core content that we want to share with you today, the learnings from that survey, as well as leave you with ideas for how you might increase your own organization or your own personal productivity around the way in which you use documents. And so moving in, let's start with just another day at the office. In a sense, this is your employees' brains on documents. And if you've worked in an office environment, you've undoubtedly overheard or said yourself phrases like, I just can't find that document, or I can't open that document, I don't have the right software, or I swore I had it, it must be buried in my email, can you please resend it? Who do I talk to about getting the software I need to see this document or to log into that system? I don't know the status of the document, I'll follow up, and on and on and on. And there's so much consternation and challenges around how we deal with documents every day, not to mention all the different file formats and different systems that we might be interacting with. And that really begs the question, with so many document technology solutions available, why don't our organizations feel more productive? Why don't we feel more productive? And in a sense, it's because, well, we're not. A Harris Interactive Knowledge Worker survey found that 92% of knowledge workers are still conducting document reviews by email. 83% of knowledge workers are still experiencing collaboration or document versioning issues, and only 2% of contracts executed in North America were signed via an e-signature solution. And there's real implications of that. IDC ran a research study recently where they found that 11.2 hours per week were chewed up and wasted through document-related challenges for employees. And that actually translates to almost 25% of a knowledge worker's time. That's pretty extreme. Because not every employee in an organization would necessarily be categorized as a knowledge worker, that ends up translating to about 10% of total organizational productivity being lost. So that's a very significant problem. And it's a problem with real scale. So why might that be the case? So instinctually we can look at these issues. People might not have the right tools. Our employees or ourselves, again, might not really understand how to use the tools most effectively. Being human beings, the reality is we're pleasure-seeking creatures of habit. So oftentimes document processes are viewed as the means to the end, and the end is truly what moves the needle. So we oftentimes overlook the challenges and the consternation that were involved with completing a task and imagine that, well, if I have to deal with this again at some point in the future, I'll figure out how to optimize it. Or this simply becomes an old habit. It's what I've always done, and it's what I'm always going to do. And interestingly, the lack of ongoing and professional training that we experience in our careers or in our lives or our businesses, there's very little, if not in reality zero, ongoing education around how to work with documents and digital documents and cloud storage and workflow processes in the new era. So that's also something for us to look at. But at Nitro, what we wanted to do is then looking at these really compelling studies from IDC, from Harris Interactive, we really wanted to go a little bit deeper, and that was the purpose of our survey, to really ask questions like, well, what specifically are workers doing, and why is this occurring, and maybe how can we improve productivity? So as I mentioned, what we did is we put together a survey called the State of Document Productivity in the Workplace. And we got a great number of responses, an excellent sample size, great cross-section through a variety of industries. So we actually had over 1,200 knowledge workers respond across 54 countries, across nearly every industry and every job function, from companies from 1 employee all the way up to 10,000, and actually 50% of the respondents were within organizations of 100 employees or more. So again, a tremendous cross-section of all kinds of businesses, which makes the data set that we received very interesting. So what I'd like to do is take you through some of the highlights of that data. I'm just going to hit a few key points as well as some insights that we can derive from this data. So first of all, starting with how often do these workers perform the following actions when working with digital documents? And this is admittedly a bit of an eye chart, so I'm going to summarize a lot of these data charts for you, but I wanted to share the data in sort of a semi-raw form rolled up. But again, how often do you perform the following actions when working with PDF or digital documents? Reading was far and away number 1, as you might expect. Printing, sharing, filling forms, and a variety of collaborative actions. So when you roll that up, the top 5 actions were reading, printing, sharing, filling forms, and editing. And when you're talking about PDF, having reading be the number 1 action is not a surprise. But when you look at number 2, because the first 2 were substantially more frequent actions, number 2 is printing, and printing is second only to reading. And that's interesting because amidst the rallying cry of going paperless, which we know to be 1, socially conscious, and 2, help us save money, printing is still so incredibly common. And so the nature of this question was, how frequently do you do this? And people said they print very frequently. And there's some implications to that, which I'm going to describe in just a moment. But we want to then figure out exactly how often is frequently. So we asked people approximately how many times per day do you use a printer, scanner, or copier? And the nature of this question actually is that all of those different things, printers, scanners, and copiers, deal with physical paper. And the responses were, again, extremely high. On average, participants work with physical paper at least 6 times a day. But even more interesting is that about 33% of respondents, 1/3, deal with physical paper more than 10 times a day. And that really brings us to our first insight. You're likely not as paperless as you could be, resulting in increased costs, slower revenue recognition, and delayed service delivery. So what does that mean? When documents become printed, they become subject to the friction of the physical world, which means they're slower to move around, slower to sign. In fact, there's research that says it costs $6.50 to process each hand-signed page of a document. and research that says that it costs about approximately $3,000 a year to manage a filing cabinet. So once documents become printed and they become slower to move around, more costly, not only are you increasing costs, but it's slower. If there is a paper document in between you and a customer and completing the transaction, then there's slower revenue recognition that's happening there, as well as customer experience impacts, meaning that the longer it takes for a contract to be signed, the longer it takes for your customer to begin benefiting from your product or services. So again, that's insight number one. Next, we wanted to look around, well, what exactly are the specific challenges that are creating so much frustration and consternation out there? Overwhelmingly, interestingly, editing was the first one. And then there were a number, again, of collaboration items that were relatively even here. So if we, again, the question says, what are the 3 biggest PDF-related challenges? We boil that down to editing, signing, and reviewing. We did look a little deeper in the data, and we found that within large organizations, interestingly, only 43% of employees in large organizations reported having a PDF editor. In smaller organizations, only 26% had a PDF editor. So why are there so many challenges around editing, and why do so few people have the software they need? Well, there's potentially a couple of reasons. One, a lot of times IT managers aren't sure that they can afford that software to blanket their employee population to deliver those products wall to wall, as you might say. Also, there's some confusion out there as to the difference between a PDF reader and a PDF editor. And so commonly employees will end up with a PDF reader and try to look to do some more advanced tasks, can't figure it out because they aren't available, and experience a host of challenges, maybe even blocking them from completing the task. Aside from editing, a lot of forms of collaboration were seen as equal challenges, as you might have seen on the last data set. So everything from signing, reviewing, and marking up, again, these are the top 3, were all viewed as significant challenges, which takes us to insight 2. Your employees may lack the tools, the systems, and the training, the understanding of what software they need to effectively collaborate. And the result is, of course, lost productivity and time. But you might say, well, my business is largely paperless, and we certainly understand how to use the software, so we're sitting pretty good. Well, there's another place that documents live, a dark and scary place, and it's very common, and that's email. So on average, how many email attachments do you receive and send each day? And there were quite a few. And I'll describe the implications of that. So on average, people are saying that they're receiving almost twice as many email attachments, digital documents as email attachments a day. The implication of email is that we all manage our email differently. Email continues to come in, so things that were important, business processes or contracts that were timely, then naturally get buried. If you're working within teams, it's certainly difficult to understand where a document or a process might be relative to your team member. And the implications end up being insight number 3. Email attachments continue to be the way that employees generally transmit documents, which lacks security and certainly traceability over time. So it's something that email has become understandably a crutch for many of us. It's really the area in which we work, but it's certainly, I think many of us would agree, not the most effective way to manage document processes, be it simple or complex. Next, this is sort of the horror slide for IT managers. So I hope you're sitting down if you're an IT manager, but where are the majority of your work documents stored? Overwhelmingly, documents remain stored on employees' personal computers and maybe an individual network folder or share. Very few, 12 to 7% across different employee sizes, are embracing cloud storage, and some are printing out documents and continuing to put it in the file cabinet. And there's probably good reasons for some of that as well. But the implication of this is are numerous, and there are almost too many to list here. Your employees are storing documents in email, their personal computers, and network shares. Part of the implication here is that employees do leave. As much as we want to keep them around, they do leave. And so as they walk out the door, then their files may be recoverable, certainly on their personal computer, on their work computer, but generally there aren't good processes for going through all those files, recategorizing, and helping you understand what institutional knowledge existed in the employee files. So by keeping everything on the personal computer, it's not searchable, it's not discoverable, and again, a tremendous amount of information tends to disappear. So that's insight number 4. Lastly, as we look at some of these challenges, which are human challenges, they're technology adoption challenges, we wanted to look again at the scale of these problems. So approximately how many times per day are people using PDF and digital documents? And the numbers really are quite high. 40% of respondents to our survey use PDF documents 10 times or more per day. So to the extent that there are issues and there are frustrations here, we can actually correlate that high report of digital document usage with other reports and see that this is a problem of real scale and of real consequence. And the final insight is that optimizing document productivity represents a real ROI and optimization opportunity for businesses and IT managers. Oftentimes when we're prioritizing projects within our organizations, we're looking for high return targets, high return benefits, and sometimes improving document processes or efficiencies doesn't sound sexy enough and doesn't hit the top of the list. But based on the research that you're seeing here, I hope you can take a look at that and really look within your own organization how you're using documents, and you may find that there are tremendous wins, tremendous ROI around enhancing your own document processes. So a few key survey highlights. Many businesses are still not as paperless as they could be. Employees don't have the tools or the knowledge to collaborate effectively. Employees are sending documents via email, using email as a crutch. Too many employees store documents on their personal computer. And then 5, again, document productivity remains an area of a really untapped ROI within many of our organizations. And the impact of the findings ranges from slow, high-cost physical processes, lack of visibility, traceability, searchability, security issues, lots of frustration for employees, and then ultimately, if we're not training on the systems that we implement, we don't receive the ROI, the benefit, and the adoption. So it's something that's certainly important for us to continue to look at. So now we wanted to leave you, having gone through the data from the survey, with 3 practical ideas for improving your own document productivity or productivity within your organization. So first I want to start with one that's sort of obvious and then give you a slight twist on that. Is one, get the right tools. Obviously, if you've got knowledge workers, you need to make sure they have the tools necessary to create, combine, edit, add security, fill out forms. You need to ensure that they've got the right tools to do their job and that they understand how to do it. But 2, for you, make sure that they're deployed properly. Make sure that you're considering there are a host of affordable solutions in the market that will allow you to ensure you've got enough of your employees blanketed. You've deployed the software to enough employees and conceivably going wall to wall if that's beneficial to you. But also looking for simple deployment mechanisms, making sure that patches are getting out there, that as the software is updated, that's also available for your employees. Whether you're operating in the Citrix or an AppV environment, making sure, again, that deployment is simple. And accepting nothing less than superior support and customer service. Depending on the nature of your business, if you're in the business of IT and the business of supporting your employees, then great, you might have infrastructure to support that. But if your business, if that isn't your area of expertise or core to your business, then make sure you're selecting a vendor that puts service and support up front and foremost, that is organized around ensuring your employees' successful adoption of the tools that you've selected and giving you that return on investment. And then lastly, remember to model desired behaviors. Don't take training for granted. Don't take for granted that they understand how to use the systems and that the processes are going to work as efficiently as they could. Second, speed up signing. E-signature solutions are not entirely new in concept, but I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of the benefits and what they actually do, far more than just signatures. So e-signature solutions do more than just capture signatures. They manage process, connect to the line of business, which means that if your documents are stored in a cloud storage platform or in Salesforce.com and you kick off processes from there, that an e-signature solution allows you to quickly do business as you're doing it today, and also provide some level of governance, which might include the ability to get approvals before quotes go out, sequential signers, approvals, and compliance. And there's real ROI benefits. So we're talking about, according to Ombud Open Research, 80% reduction in turnaround times, which is incredible, as well as $20 average per document savings. And that's going to vary organization to organization depending on how complex your processes are, how expensive employees are that are engaging in those processes, how sophisticated, how much follow-up is required. So there's a lot that goes into understanding that. But Ombud looked at a variety of different businesses and found, on average, upwards of $20 savings per document. And then there's some interesting changes as e-signature, the e-signature market has evolved. Any trepidations or concerns customers might have had around e-signatures now has really faded. In fact, they want them. And the other twist there is that the customer experience of receiving a document and being able to sign on a mobile phone versus having to print it out, sign it, figuring out how to fax or scan the document back represented just enough work that a lot of times that would be set aside to the weekend and maybe fall through the cracks. And so what they're finding is that improved customer experience of being able to sign so quickly and start to receive the benefits of your products and services so quickly is resulting in improved customer loyalty. Just a quick case study here, talking about Salesforce, which is a massive organization. I'm sure you've heard of Salesforce. Didn't always have e-signatures. Before e-signatures, it took on average 2 days for them from contract origination to provision services. After e-signatures, now 90% of services are enabled and deployed within 1 day. And on average, they're receiving $19.35 savings per document and upwards of $50 per document in some cases. So that's quite remarkable. Another quick one, just one data point here. Kissmetrics, a Nitro customer, has shared with us that they're seeing approvals come back 10 times faster than before using an e-signature solution. So again, number 2, speed up the signing process. And lastly, number 3, collaborate smarter. What does that mean? It really means finding ways to connect your desktop processes with cloud processes, sharing collaborative processes. The reality is that most documents still are authored and created, begin their life, as said on this slide, on the desktop. From there, increasingly, more collaborative activities like signing, sharing, and storing via cloud services are happening within the cloud. And when you take a look at the difference between the two, what you might do on your desktop and what you might do on the cloud, you can see on the left is really organized around creation and authoring. And on the right, the cloud and more sophisticated workflows like e-signature solutions offer a whole new host of functionality at Nitro that we refer to sometimes as smart documents. Because once a document moves into the cloud and all of a sudden you can attach information like workflow status, activity alerts, any comments or questions that happen on the document or markup is now tied to the document at the document level. No longer do you have to look for trying to assemble a history or a status or even the thought behind the creation of a document by going across multiple email systems. All of that is tied to the document at the document level. So one of the ways that we say it is look how you can, again, tie your desktop to the cloud processes. How can you trigger off workflows from your desktop? And the reason why that's so important is that there are a number of emerging global trends of which I'm sure you're aware. We're increasingly distributed across continent, in many cases countries, cities, even within our own internal organizations and customers. We're often using more freelancers now, where we may want to share digital documents, share permissions to view, edit, interact, and then revoke those when a short-term engagement concludes. Also, mobile is certainly changing the face of things. We are doing things more real time. We're also engaging with digital documents across personal and work devices. So for that reason, if you look at these solutions, these sort of three examples, getting the right tools, speeding up signing, and collaborate smarter, these are really going to become key utilities for doing business. It'd be more productive with digital documents now and in the future. So in summary, 3 ways to increase document productivity: get the right tools, speed up signing, collaborate smarter, connect the desktop to the cloud, and then 4, as a bonus, remember, don't take training for granted. A lot of ongoing training to use these new tools cannot be assumed that people understand how to do this effectively, and therein lies really the true means or method to unlocking the ROI benefits and increasing your document productivity and your business competitiveness. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your attending. We'll take a short Q&A, and certainly if we're not able to get to any of your questions at this time, please do contact us, and we'll make sure someone follows up to answer your question. Again, thank you so much.
Sam, that's fantastic. Thank you so very much, and for all of you that hung around till the end. We've got a couple of questions here that we'll just move through pretty quickly so y'all can get back to the rest of your day. But one question we had with regard, I think, to the audience of our survey, Sam, was what exactly is a knowledge worker? Who are these people that we put the survey out to?
Oh, it's a good question. It really could be anyone. A knowledge worker has a somewhat loose definition, but it's anyone who is interacting with a physical document, anyone from an administrator processing the document to someone who might be creating the document. It could be a sales rep. It could be from anyone at the administration, sales rep, or management level. So it's, again, it's loosely defined or is broadly defined as anyone interacting with digital documents and the information that lies therein.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good question.
So the next one we have here is the term collaboration came up quite a bit in the presentation, but it's a pretty broad term. Are you able to go into a little bit more detail about what that might mean with specific regard to documents?
Yeah, collaboration is a broad term. That's also a good question. It can mean everything from a signing process to a signing process to an approval process, to markup, to review, to receiving comments and feedback. In many cases, again, so much of that is being done through email, which leaves a trail for the individual receiving or the individuals copied on that message, but doesn't provide a tremendous amount of traceability. So it's really about making the process of collaboration easier and also being able to revisit and, again, back to traceability.
Fantastic. So here's one that just popped up. I am one of the knowledge workers that you were speaking about. Do you have any tips that for me for getting buy-in from my company's leadership around, you know, these concepts you presented, like e-signing and cloud storage?
That's a great question. One thing that you could do is potentially share this presentation with folks at your company. The other thing is to reach out to the folks at Nitro. We're certainly happy to partner with you, and not even in a sales approach, sort of a consultative approach, and help your management understand the potential benefits of improving their document productivity. So again, we'll provide links to this presentation, as well as happy to support you however we can do that. But certainly these facts and figures are compelling. So by sharing them, it's definitely a great place to start.
Fantastic, thank you. And here's one of the other ones. Can you tell us anything about the legality of e-signatures?
Yes, great question. There are a number of acts that support the legality of e-signatures. The e-Sign Act, certainly in the U.S. In North America, e-signatures are very popular, of course, viewed as legally binding. Europe as well, There are some countries that have some individual laws that are a little bit trickier, a little bit more persnickety, like Germany, as a for instance. But there are two types of two types of e-signatures. There are electronic signatures, which is one of the most popular today. There's also digital signatures. Digital signature has another layer of security built on top of it, person key identifiers and levels of encryption that are basically encoded with a signature. Both e-signatures and digital signatures are legally binding. In many cases, e-signatures are viewed as really everything that you would need. And the irony is that both e-signatures and digital signatures are far more secure and contain audit information more so than a wet ink signature ever did.
Awesome, fantastic. And then I think we just have, this one will be super quick. Here's a question. Do you guys offer good training videos for people who decide Nitro is the right tool? And actually, I'm going to send a couple of links through the chat window here. One is to the /university link will take you to a lot of video tutorials focusing on Nitro Pro, which is our desktop PDF software. So you can see how to edit documents on there, how to combine files, etc. And then the second link there is to our Nitro Cloud video tutorial. So that'll give you more insight into how to initiate an e-signing workflow. You can even create signing templates for preparing documents and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, that's all the questions we have right now, or we have time for at least. If we didn't get to yours, we can certainly follow up with you via email, which we will do shortly after the presentation. We will be distributing links to both the recording of this presentation along with the actual slides that Sam presented as well. So like I said earlier, keep an eye on your inbox. It'll come through as an email for you. And again, thank you very much for attending today, Sam. Thank you so much for the time you put into the presentation. I really enjoyed hearing you.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you to all who attended.
Thank
My pleasure.
you. Oh, and it's looking like the link I put might have generated an error, so let me just resend that for you guys before we sign off. And thanks for your patience with me.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye-bye.